How's it, mother lovers? Tools. Well, you've got more tools to chat about, and they're going for silly cheap money. Well, at the time of recording this, they're about half the price. And I have some bad news about this workshop I'll share with you during this video. Let's get on with it. I'll start off with what I think is the worst of this lot and leave the star of the show till later. This whole reinventing the wheel in this game is getting a bit tiresome, all clucking for the money. It'd be so much better if tool companies would actually spend their money to research and development of being able to fix tools and not have to buy new. Don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of good to say about HONGDUI tools. They're really hitting the high-end market at very affordable prices. Well, considering what the high-end tools prices are, that is. You might say that the prices of the HONGDUI tools are still unobtainable, out of reach, whatever. I mean, that table saw mighty gauge that I reviewed. Absolute dog's that thing. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you the 650mm HONGDUI. It looks good, don't get me wrong, but so does Amber Heard. Cast your mind back to the tomtit she left on the bed. She still raises more than an eyebrow though, doesn't she? Which is similar to what I have here, in my opinion. I ordered a different version and was told that version was discontinued. They says, we can send you the newer version if you like. This is the one they sent me. I should say hooked on something, had something to do with the design of this, or should I say the remodel of it. But off the bat, feels a bit like Amber Heard polished that turd. You know, I mentioned reinventing the wheel. If there was ever a case of it, this is it. Nonetheless, it looks nice, doesn't it? And for the dosh, it should do. As much as I love red anodized tools, I think it's time that HONGDUI sort of stood up and be counted. You know, the other HONGDUI tools are all black, silver and white. If this had been made in the black, silver and white, I would have been way more happy about it. I think just because tool makers like woodpeckers make theirs in red, copying their colour is word nouveau riche. I can tell you though, this comes in metric or imperial for you freedom units lovers. My pet hate for these tools is these holes for the pencils. Most of them are like 0.5mm holes. These have been drilled out to 1mm holes. So we need to find out whether a standard pencil will work in these holes. I'm imagining it's only going to work with the standard pencil sharpener I use that puts a longer point on the pencil. I'll show you that in a minute anyway. Because if it doesn't take that pencil, it's no good to me. I hate mechanical pencils. They just break all the time when you're going across the grain anyway. And let's be honest, that's probably the main function of this outside of it being a T-square. Now, I would have been quite happy with the T-square just being a T-square, but a friend of mine pointed out to me recently, oh, this would be really nice if you've got to do drawer handles and, drawer pulls and the likes for drilling them. I'm going to find that out because, there really isn't a lot to keep a drill bit square. Honestly, I'd sooner do that kind of drilling with a proper tool that's made for doing that, like a pillar drill. But anyway, back to the holes in this ruler. There's also a hole in here for you to put your pencil in and do that, which is effectively what these holes are for here too. Why do you need two? You know, I would have rather preferred to use that hole there to do that business with and got rid of these holes and had 0.5mm increments instead, at least on one side. So I'm a bit confused why you've got all these holes here and these here. I am assuming that's because these are going to be bang on accurate. You could be a hair off if you're dialing in this yourself, possibly. The points on here are a little bit, rounded. So you could just offset it off the line of a hair, but then I think it's so minimum, it's not going to be an issue. And like I said, if it was in black with white markings, it'd be a lot easier to see and read too. The other thing is the blade of this T-square. Quite very happy to see how close it is to the wood, quite sharp, so it's easy to get your line down. Unlike that's just a nightmare if you're going to want to use these measurements. I don't, I just want it for a marker right angle. Not sure if I said, but this is 650mm end to end, so you could mark across 1.3 metre board side to side. These drill guides come in 3, 4, 5 and 6mm. You can swap out. Good job there's two, because if you've got a draw pull you're going to need two, aren't you? That's 6mm drill bit, it's a 6.5mm. I don't think I need to investigate that anymore, do I? Now these fish bits at that tip, 5.94mm. At the round end it's 5.94. Well, it'll get you in the ballpark, as they say, won't it? But it's not going to be straight. So therefore, for me, these are only going to really be serving one purpose, and that is to keep this ruler some rigidity. God, I can barely speak today. So yeah, these drilling guides are the amber herd of the ruler. To tell the truth, also, I'm not very comfortable with sticking in my fish drill bits into a metal collar. They're expensive drill bits and they're extremely sharp. These, on the other hand, they're handy. There's a function to this which I think is utterly pointless. I don't think anyone would use it. I certainly am not going to be bothering with it, but this is for you to put on your table saw and set your blade to 45 degrees. This doubles up as a trammel. You won't be able to see it from there. I'll zoom in. There's a little pin that comes through that when you screw that. Just go into your hole. Yeah, pin like that. That will be handy. Though that needs checking to see if it's square and no, it's not. Yeah, so sorry about that. Battery went dead on the recorder. I'm just going to double check this. Yeah, that's fine. In here, there's a nice little indent on a line, so if you already have a line like that, you can slide this up and to your line if you wanted it to be in the middle for some reason. Obviously there's two sides to this rule, so you could just do that, but if you've drawn your marking on centres of your line, you'd want that function for, say, draw pulls. Oh, I'm going to have to use a T-square to set the T-square. So that's my original. As you can see, we're at the line there. And you can see the O, that's the original line. You can see how much is out. Now this is all nice and loose. There's no giving this to set this square. I wasn't expecting that, so I'm going to give this 1 dim sum out of 5 because it's an expensive trammel. That's all it is to me now. C'est la vie. I didn't give up on this straight after that shot. I just couldn't believe this is not square. Kept going, testing it to the point where I went for the other side with the melamine side. Tested that with a straight edge. It's as straight as can be. So I don't think it's the board because the other T-square is absolutely fine and marking parallel lines. On a separate note though, this is the sharpener I use. It's got 2 sharpening parts to it. First of all, get yourself sort of that extent, and then you go to the second side and you get a really nice long sharp point, which, not that it matters anymore, does fit in these holes. I therefore feel that this would be fine with this pencil, not mechanical pencils, because it's shaped like it is, it's going to be a bit more resilient to snapping if it fits in both these holes. How disappointing. If you're wondering what brand this is, made by Cum. Not cheap. I'm sure you can find a cheaper version. As you know, I've got a bit of a hard-on for HONGDUI tools, so I asked for this router plane because it's made by HONGDUI. And you know I reviewed a router plane recently, which then led me to sell my Veritas router plane. But this was the one that I settled with. This is as cheap as chips. There's no fanciness to it. It works, and it works really nicely actually. I generally only use a router plane for finishing off a machine can't dial in, rebates, that sort of thing, especially Maloof joinery. It's a great little router. I mean, it's something like 20 quid. Anyway, I'm sure I saw somewhere that this has also been a collab with the Butcher of California. It's the apron. Anyway, off the bat, straight away I can tell you I hate the finish on it. There's definitely no given there. Terrible paint job. It's not a flat colour, or is it just machine oil? I take that back. It's got machine oil all over it, which made the paint look like it's not flat. But I still don't like the finish of the paint in the sense that it's just my opinion. It's what I like. I'll show you. This has got like a satin finish on it, more towards gloss than satin, whereas this is matte. It's a nice matte finish, which I just think looks a lot better. It's just a matter of opinion, you might think completely different and be absolutely over the moon with that. I mean, to be fair, if you were buying this, I think you'd be absolutely over the moon with it. And you think, what is he talking about the finish? Finish on the handles looks like it's only had one coat, or maybe it's splashed with machine oil. This router plane was £238 before. Right now it's £111, and it comes with a fence too. Veritas is £219 without the fence, £27 to buy the additional fence, so that's a total of 246 quid. Not bad for the money, is it? I mean, you're getting more than you would on the Veritas, especially with that. It's got a cam lock on it. I can tell you now though, the rise and fall mechanism of the blade on this, compared with the Veritas, fuck me, is it so much better. The Veritas was loose, clunky feeling. This is really nice and smooth. It's way more refined than the Veritas, that's for sure. And with the blade zeroed out, it says 0 on the markings. So the sort of viewfinder of this, you can move up and down, I'd say about 10 mil. Yeah, not sure about that. The rise and fall, epic though. Right, so this cam lock here, that's more like your max depth stop, so you would set it there, lock it off. This locks this off from turning at all. So say you've done one rebate, you've got to your bottom there, you then set that cam to that depth. You can make sure you always end up at the same depth for your next cut and lock that off. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think for 111 quid, that's pretty bloody good. This attaches both sides. This is more refined than the Veritas one. It's half the price. If it goes back up, it'll be more expensive because then you've got the cost of the import duties. So anything over 135 quid, you get charged import duties. That's what those are for, to bolt that on. Don't really need to go into that, do we? It's a fence. I like this idea though. This is now a marking knife with the 45-degree blade in that goes in this. Razor sharp out of the box. Now what really annoyed me about the Veritas was the sharpening jig for doing these blades. Similar to this is not going to go in a jig, is it? Because of the shape of it all. But anyway, the Veritas one, it would fit in the jig and it'd be on the... This though, I've just noticed, blades have a ridge in it, so there's no way that's going to go in on the... That mates perfectly in there. Blade change is easier on this than it is on that Veritas as well. I'm sure I'm going to get comments from those dickheads who just called it crap, and they would still go and buy a tool that's costs more and inferior to this. In my opinion, this is definitely... Sorry, the Veritas is definitely inferior to this. Sharpening it though. Is this... Because I can't see any other part that would go in a jig and hold these blades. And that's not going to go in a sharpening jig like that. I'll come back to you. Well, having looked at the instructions... This isn't the blade holder. That's your blade holder for sharpening. That's not going to go in a jig. You're going to have to sharpen these by hand. What isn't clear, however, is you've got your 45-degree blade. These are 1/2-inch blades, by the way, which is 12.7 in the real world. But because it's got this little ridge in here, when you attach this, it's going to keep the blade straight, where you'd want it angled. You know what I mean? Like that. Put it on the other side, you can angle it, but it's nothing to lock the blade off at your 45. See, I can move that. It's just nice if you're going in a straight line instead of holding. These teeth, both of them do have the corners cut off them, but even still, that doesn't bolt together with the 45 butted up to the flat at the back. And the instructions show this though. Fix that A45, and in the instructions how this is seated, except for the fact that in the instructions it's seated at 45 degrees. This won't seat like it does in the says in the instructions. Weird that, but nice. It's nice as a marking knife, that's for sure. You're going to have to sharpen it like that. It's awkward. Another function of this router plane, and that's what this is for. Banging away. Feels like that was put in with Loctite. So you got cowgirl and reverse cowgirl. That's pretty cool, I think. The Veritas one, you'd have to unscrew the blade and turn the blade, so I'm not sure really. Is it just easier to change the blade on the Veritas to a different direction, thus still having the support you had with this frame? You know what I mean? So this just fits that way. But inside here, while changing this, you've got this outside here. This is die-steel body. Cast iron would be heavier. Going back to this mechanism, what I was talking about, the mechanism had backlash in it. This doesn't have any. And given how this is all set up, it's not going to have any in the cut either, unless you're taking trying to take 2 mil off or something. I think I would give this a 4 out of 5 dim sum. The reason I'm going to not give it a 5 is because of that. Although I like this as You know, it's nice to have a marking knife, especially that type of marking knife. Two pointed sides like that, and the flat back. That I prefer to any other type of marking knife. With the flat back, you've got a nice reference point of it, but that won't go in a sharpening jig, so that's why it loses a star. My next guest, this will be very quick. It's not a really great deal you can say about this. I have been using it. Double-headed mitre gauge, pretty straightforward really. Two rods, they lock off. It has all these useless markings on it, which is in metric. It only comes in metric. Again, never used these before. The markings on any of these types of tools. I have used this. This does do the job. My only problem I've got with it is if you tighten down these marking wheels too tight, the marking wheels will not turn, and that's not turning. That one's turning, but that one's not. And I can safely say they are not razor sharp. They do mark, given I can turn my hand onto it without cutting myself trying to turn it because it's locked off. You can take those off and easily scrub them up sharper, and they go away. Protects marking wheels. It's not bad. I mean, it's 13 quid, and until I can afford the marking gauge I'd really like, this will get me by. I'd give this a 3 out of 5 dim sum because it is up against some stiff competition. I don't think Tightmark actually do a mortise gauge version of these though. These bad boys are solid carbide. Getting myself a bit of a collection of spiral bits at the time. Remember this bad boy, right? Still a bad boy. These are other spiral bits that I've got from Banggood. I'll leave you a link down below for all of the spiral bits that Banggood do, and to save trawling through their website, because their website is awful. So there'll be links to all of these. Spiral bits, in my opinion, are far better than twin fluted bits, especially for plunge cuts when you're going into the wood, because these are pretty much shaped like a brad point drill bit. It will drill down into the wood, whereas with a twin flute style, unless you've got the twin flute style that's got sort of cuttery type shape to the end of it, the twin flutes are just going to cut and cut so it bottoms out, and you'll have a sort of like a nipple bit of wood left, and the router won't be able to go all the way down. And that's when the good old days we used to have to drill down with a drill bit and then go in there with a twin fluted bit and make passes. These you don't have to do that. I also would say I don't think twin fluted bits cut anywhere as nicely and as cleanly and as fast as these do cut. These edges are really, really razor sharp. I find it's much easier to burn your cut with the twin fluted bits than these. Admittedly, that's down to the speed you're making your router move. Anyway, hear me out. I bet you're thinking, wow, these, you know, but these are so crazily expensive. At the time of writing this, and I researched this before, the twin fluted bits, say from Trend or Bosch, I mean, they look identical, probably made by the same company, the same size as that, which is 12 by, so it's 19 by 12. The Trend version twin fluted bit is £13. This spiral cutter of the same size is £12.70. So it's the same price really, isn't it? You've got a much better router bit in my opinion. I went and checked also all the sort of equivalent, it's difficult to say the word equivalent when you're talking about spiral cutter bits. You know, the fluted cutters don't have compound cutters on them, so it's not really the same. But anyway, they're equivalent, say like the twin fluted version of that. This is the same price as these spiral cutters. I don't know how long prices at Banggood are going to stay at that price. If I were you, I'd get my arse into gear and order a load of them while they're that price. Because when they put the price back up, I think the price is, so say for instance, this is 13 quid, it's going to be 27 quid in the future. A quick FYI, there's 3 types of spiral cutters. You've got down cut, up cut, compression cut. It's an interesting subject because when you're in a router or when you're in a router table, it's kind of different, isn't it? But an up cut router bit leaves a clean bottom and a rough face. A down cut bit will leave a rough bottom and a nice clean face. And you've guessed it, a compression bit will cut the top and the bottom nice and smoothly. These really are for side grain really. Pattern bits, that's a compression bit. It's a beast of a compression bit actually. And the reason for having different sizes is for different, bollocks, is for different size radiuses. How to visually tell the difference between a down cut and an up cut is the cutting edge slices downwards, okay, and obviously an up cut is cutting upwards, which is removing the chips upwards. Compression bits just very easy to tell. 2 blades that go in 2 different directions. What else? These bits also from well-known makers like Whiteside, hellishly a lot more expensive. I've got some Whiteside bits and I can't tell the difference. I have reviewed this bit bit in a previous review. If you're interested, I'll leave a link below. Well worth getting that. It's bizarre. It's when you're making a pass on it, it doesn't feel like you're in contact with the bit, unlike normal router bits. I'm going to get another one of those, but I'm going to get a smaller diameter though. And this was only 42 quid for that. So I'm going to give these router bits 5 dim sum out of 5 dim sum. Absolutely no complaints with them. Love them to bits. I just want more of them. If you can, I'd be grateful if you'd head over to my Patreon page and sign up and help support this channel. It's pressure free, no obligation, cancel any time. You get the director's cuts, so no bleeping, and you get to see them ad free on Patreon. I hope you're enjoying the video. Be lucky. Now for the bad news. Literally had a message this morning saying that this workshop my tools are in, the barn that I'm in, is being bought, aka has been sold.